Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something incredibly complex and deeply impactful, the media impact of the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. But we're not going to look at this through the usual political or military lens. Instead, we're going to examine it strictly through the academic framework of strategic communication. By the end of our time together, you're going to have a really clear understanding of exactly how modern conflicts are waged, not just on the ground, but across our global media networks. We have a clear roadmap for today. First, we'll cover the core theory of strategic communication. Then, we'll dive into a case study of October 7th. And finally, we'll analyze the dynamics of the new digital theater. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Strategic Communication Theory. To really understand modern attacks, we have to peel back the purely physical elements of terrorism and look at its core, which is ultimately a communication strategy. Let's start with this famous assertion from historian Walter LaCour. Way back in 1976, he said, "The media are the terrorist's best friend. The terrorist act by itself is nothing. Publicity is all." This perfectly anchors our academic understanding today. The physical act? That's merely the vehicle. Publicity is the ultimate goal. Building right on that, academics like Leanne Rothenberger emphasize that terrorism is fundamentally designed to communicate a message to a broader audience. In a cold, purely academic sense, you have a sender, you have a message, where the victim is tragically used as the medium, and you have a receiver, which is the broader public. The message actually matters more than the immediate physical destruction. Scholars like Jenkins and Wyman describe this dynamic as the theater of terror. Think back to historical precedents, like the Munich Olympics. These acts function almost exactly like theatrical productions. They are designed not primarily for immediate casualties, but for absolute maximum exposure on the world's mass media stage. Moving right along to Section 2, our case study of October 7th. Let's see how these foundational concepts actually apply in a concrete example of weaponized images. What's really fascinating here is how images were used to seamlessly bridge the digital and physical worlds. You have a graphic digital threat circulating online, like a visual of an hourglass warning that time is running out. But that doesn't just stay on a screen, it manifests directly into psychological pressure in physical spaces, like the installation scene within Israel. The online realm and the physical space just continuously feed into one another. Professor Moran Yarchi points out that the hostage videos released by Hamas were highly structured communicative acts. These definitely aren't random broadcasts. They utilize very specific psychological tools, things like providing proof of life or directing messages straight at the Israeli public and the families of hostages. It's all calibrated to maximize emotional impact. And this brilliantly illustrates the theater of terror in action today. Hostage release ceremonies are not just mere documentations of a handover. With the careful staging, the banners, the uniforms, they act as full-on theatrical productions explicitly designed for global media consumption. The strategic flow here is clear, deliberate, and incredibly fast. It happens in 4 steps. Terrorists create an event, package it into a highly engineered message or video, completely bypass traditional media gatekeepers by injecting it directly into social media, and instantly reach a global audience. They control the entire chain from start to finish. Which brings us to Section 3, analyzing the digital theater. How exactly have the rules of engagement changed in our hyper-networked modern era? While modern terrorist groups rely heavily on new platforms because of a stark shift in architecture, traditional media is centralized. You have journalistic gatekeepers who filter and frame the news. But social media? It's decentralized, it's inherently viral, and it's completely autonomous. There is literally no gatekeeper to stop a carefully crafted, highly emotional video from reaching millions of people in minutes. Platforms like Telegram and TikTok enable what scholars call the privatization of war. In the past, these groups had to issue statements to news agencies and just cross their fingers hoping they were reported. Today, social networks act as their own virtual firewall. It allows groups to act as their own legitimate media sources, interact directly with subscribers, and manipulate global perception autonomously. So, the crucial academic conclusion we get from scholars like Rothenberger and Yarchi is simply this. Media coverage is absolutely not a byproduct of terrorism. It's the core of the strategy. The manipulation of global perception is the primary objective, and decentralized social media has handed these organizations unprecedented power to actually achieve it. That wraps up our explainer. But before we go, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on.
If this digital theater of terror relies entirely on our collective attention to succeed, how do we, as a democratic society, stay informed without becoming unwilling participants in their carefully orchestrated broadcast? Thank you so much for joining me.